Hi, I'm Casey.
And I'm Gianni.
I never finished reading the Animorphs books as a kid, and I still haven't as an adult.
And I've never read them.
We can't tell you where we live.
But we can tell you that we want to revisit these books as adults and dive into what we would keep or change if we were to put it on TV.
Two friends, 50-something books. Welcome to Morphin Buddies.
And then the music kicks in, and then people are just so ready.
Hey everyone, welcome to Morphin Buddies with me, your host Casey Cisnowski, and Mr. Gianni DeMaio. What's up?
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
Coming in hot with the flailing hands. I like it.
Yeah, you know, I feel like flailing hands is always a way to just get the energy rocking and rolling, you know what I mean?
Getting it through your body. Oh, all those actorly exercises are coming back.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, today we are going to talk about the first Megamorphs book, The Andalite's Gift, book 7.5, if you will.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, guess who got our first email? We got an email.
No way.
Yeah.
I love that you hold these until we're recording. It's so exciting.
It's fun. I want to surprise you. Surprise.
Oh my gosh. Surprise indeed. What did it say? What if it's just like, you guys suck?
He's like, shut up. Bye.
Stop doing this.
Please stop. That would be like the most polite, passive-aggressive way to tell us you hate us, is just please stop.
Yeah, that's great.
That's it. So he actually wrote to us at the end of May. So at the time we're recording this, it's the middle of June. Baller. And he said, hi, I just listened to episode 3 and really liked it. Looking forward to the next one. Totally not a controller, Jimmy.
Nice. That
Thank
sounds like something a controller would say, Jimmy.
That's what I was thinking a little bit in my little brain chords. So
he can't be a controller, though. He said he's not.
He said he's not, so he's probably not. But I said, hey, totally not a controller, Jimmy. And I said, you're our first email. We super appreciate it. Welcome aboard our little adventure. And then I signed it with still slightly sus. Casey and Gianni.
Aww.
So,
Jimmy, I'm going to kiss you on the mouth.
Jimmy.
Give me your little lips over here.
You know
Come
what,
here,
Jimmy,
you little controller.
With consent.
Of course.
We have to make sure it's with consent. Jimmy, if you do not give consent, Gianni will not give you a little kiss. But now, let's say Jimmy did give his consent. You want to give him a little smooch, Gianni?
I'll give him a little smooch. Yeah, now that you gave your consent to this hypothetical engagement, you know what I mean?
There we go.
But if you don't, Jimmy, it's okay.
It's cool. Like a high five or a handshake is cool too, if you're okay with that.
Yeah. Or we can just air hug, you know?
We can just air hug. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That works.
We could have an emotional affair, you know? We could
really
just write little love letters back and forth, you know?
Yeah, skip across a field together.
The yerk in your brain could slither into my brain. We could share each other's thoughts.
He said he's totally not a controller.
Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot.
You forgot that part. He's totally not a controller.
My mistake. I forgot.
But thank you, Jimmy, for your kind words. So we got one email. Yay.
Yay. Thank you, indeed.
So, Mr. Gianni, what did you think about the Andalite's Gift? Did it have to do with the Andalite's Gift? I mean, it did. It did.
I mean, yes.
It did.
But I feel like this is one of those titles that's like in the back pocket, you know, just busting out whenever we have nothing else.
Yeah.
Because, yes, it technically, but it's not, but it does. Anything has to deal with the Andalite's Gift if they're referring to morphing at all. So, what did I think of this one? I don't know. I'm pretty torn on Megamorphs 1. I liked it. I did like it. I think that it has some pretty glaring flaws.
Yes.
I think most notably, it starts pretty slow.
Oh my god.
It's hard to get into.
The first half of this book, I was like, I am so done with this book already.
It's tough. I also think that, because I think its greatest strength is the novelty of being able to switch between the different character perspectives.
Yes.
It's very good at balancing, everybody gets, like a kind of very interesting moment.
Yes.
However, there are times where, to break up the structure, it seems as though Applegate just kind of throws in like a very short chapter of someone else just kind of doing basically nothing, like not really getting any new information,
or that we already
reader.
read about in the previous chapter.
That happened quite a bit.
Oh
where
my god, that was driving me nuts.
Yeah, it would be here's this crazy event. You're like, oh my gosh, and then you see the same crazy event from another character's perspective, but it gives you no new information. It's literally just the exact same thing. And I was like, that seems like it's a missed opportunity on that. So that was frustrating. I do think, though, this is perhaps the most like cinematic entry in the series thus far. I think it's very interesting. I did like the switching of the character perspectives, especially when everybody was kind of getting their own thing. I mean, you get to this like really interesting sort of climatic point, sort of towards like the back center of the book, where, you know, we're not in spoiler territory yet, but you know, as vague as I can kind of, you know, sort of phrase it, like there's people trying to make a sort of getaway, and they have like a really sort of interesting and also very funny way of like doing it. And then there's other characters that are like looking for those characters, and like everything about it in that particular section of the book, I was like, this is everything Animorphs should be. It was like peak Animorphs, you know?
It was fun.
Everybody working together, not really certain of where everybody is, but everybody is contributing to whatever this thing is, you know, in the grand scheme of stuff. All of the character dynamics are really, really fun, really interesting, really great banter. It was tense, but it always kept the humor at the forefront, which I really appreciated. This book also had perhaps my favorite line in the entire series thus far.
No way.
Had me laugh out loud how funny this line was. It was brilliant. And of course it gave us Axe officially as a point of view character, which I had said I wanted to see happen, and it did happen, so that was super cool. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, it's a mixed bag, because I think that there's like a villainous presence here beyond, of course, the typical. And I think it was it was an intriguing thing, and then once I learned about it, then I was like, okay, this seems a bit, you know, sort of contrived. It seems like there's some glaring holes here. And I've talked about before how I think like the Yeerks that we actually read about are very different than what people say about the Yeerks, and this did not help the cause, because they seem like senseless, like they're not even like just doing basic sort of common sense with their planning here, yet they're like the most dominant alien force and whatever. So it was, and then of course there's one character in particular who I think that it was really interesting what they did with her, but the whole first sort of half of the book, it's like, where's this going with this character? And you also have to buy into a certain level of, you know, there's like a sort of plausible deniability of like a particular engagement. I mean, like, it's just one of those things where, how do I put this? Like, if you're the type of person who watches movies and sees someone get like punched in the face hard enough that they like are knocked unconscious, and then they like wake up later, and you're always thinking to yourself like, they have a concussion, they should go
or
home.
they should be hemorrhaging.
Like, then you're probably not gonna like this book in particular.
Guilty.
Because
Guilty.
That's the type of thing, you know what I mean? So it's like, so I all that to say, that's just a really long-winded way of saying that this was a mixed bag for me. I think it had really high highs and very low lows. What did you think?
If I had one word to describe this book, it would definitely be dynamic. It was really great going from character to character to character, even though I did get a little bit bored of getting the same information or getting those useless chapters of like, we didn't learn anything, this is just kind of a repeat. It kind of felt like it was padding out the book a little bit. But ultimately, I did think it was really fun. It would make for a great, like, mid-season special or something, you know, where there's a lot going on. It's pretty fast-paced for most of the time. I agree with you. I did not buy the first bit of the book that happens to a certain character, where you have to suspend your believability. I wanted to give it a chance, and I kind of, you know, I remember the first time I read it, I kind of gave it a chance, and I was like, this doesn't really seem right. And then I looked up medically what the symptoms would be, and I was like, oh, that's what I thought. Okay, so this is just like, it felt like just something that was put in there for something else to do. Not that...
Yeah, it was just a kind of contrived plot.
Yeah, not that it was
a
bad idea. Look, these books are near and dear to my heart. I know there is a fervent fan base within this series, and any kind of like criticism that we may give to these books, it's not necessarily saying, oh, the author's bad, or whoever ghost wrote a book is bad. We're not calling these people bad. We're just looking at things from our adult eyes, and seeing how we could improve upon the material that we're given, so that way it can be more palatable for people if they're shooting it as a series. Ways to make it work so we can even make the series even better, you know. So I don't want anyone thinking like, oh, they hate it and they hate the author and blah blah blah. It's like, no, I have love for these books. Gianni's got some love for these books, and so yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, I would say on a book scale, this is probably on the lower end of like books that I really enjoyed. I probably wouldn't go back to this book if I was given the opportunity to read it again. I'd probably just kind of skip over it.
Yeah, or I would at least hit like the chapters I liked.
Yeah.
Like I really liked a lot of the Marco stuff.
Yeah.
So I would like probably keep that in.
Yeah, the Marco stuff was fun.
And to be very clear, not the Marco in the first half of the book. I'm talking about like the Marco
the second half of the book. He slapped hard. He was great.
Yeah, there was like they literally had nothing to do in the first half. They were like, "What if he's just an asshole?" I was like, "Okay, I don't need more Marco asshole. That's not."
We love Marco now. We don't want him to be an asshole. How'd you feel about Prince Jake?
Passable in this. I mean, well, I think anyone who's listened to Morphin Buddies for any period of time knows how I feel about Jake. None of Jake's actions in this book made that worse. None of it made that better. This was just kind of like Jake is just Jake. He's going to be the ipso facto leader, which is just like every time it comes up, it's the biggest eye roll for me. But there was nothing in it that was like, presenting me with anything that was going to exacerbate my sort of opinion on him thus far. I think, though, that the MVPs of the book are definitely Marco and definitely Axe. Which is funny because Axe actually doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
But just having the character perspective was like, just chef's kiss. There's
it was like a new... It did seem like they were kind of testing it out to see how people would react to having Axe and his perspective in this book, and it probably went over pretty well, because I do know in future books we do get his point of view in the future. So I am glad that we were able to see that. We start to see how his mind works, and it also gives us more information as to how Andalites work, what their technology is like, what are the ways that they think to get themselves outside of a situation. So I thought that was really interesting.
I also wanted to throw out there that I have some Audible credits, and I actually did this book on audio.
Oh, no way.
And I would like to recommend it highly. I actually think it's the best way to read this book.
Yeah, because there's a lot of sound effects in this.
Loved the audio performances. They had 5 people each do their own POV characters, which I thought was perfect. The guy who does Axe has impeccable comedic timing. There's a lot of people with like really good, demonstrations of, like the onomatopoeia stuff. Because I know that like sometimes when you're reading these in copy. That a lot of that stuff doesn't really translate.
Sure.
I thought, killed it. So shout out to the audio team. If you are interested at all in Megamorphs, and if this is maybe scaring you off of it a little bit, I would say try the audiobook. You might enjoy it more.
Cool. Well, that's a nice little factoid. Thanks, Gianni.
Very welcome.
Do we want to kind of dive into this and go through the plot now?
Yeah, let's do it. This is kind of a scatterbrained plot, but
a little bit. We'll be jumping.
Bear with me. So the first, I would say, maybe quarter of this book is basically just like, hey, it's so much like this. This is gonna make sense in a second, but it's so much like this that I thought for a second that Megamorphs actually wasn't going to have a plot at all. But basically, the whole first quarter of this book is swapping character perspectives, as we had said. But it is like, hey, just to catch you up to speed, here's some stuff you might have missed from the previous entries of the Animorphs, and it was like boom, bang, bang, boom, all while. Two of the members of our squad are basically going to a pool party for just someone in their class. Marco was specifically not invited because of a prank that he had pulled at a previous pool party of this person. And he is kind of like reasoning with himself and with Axe about, maybe they actually have a crush on me or something. I should go find out, and we should sneak in there and all this stuff, right? But mostly this first quarter is just kind of being like, I think they actually outright say this, I think Cassie and Jake say this in dialogue, but it's them saying, well, we need to try to have like a little break from, because this has been like an intense and stressful, like 7 books. Let's take a breather and let's just try to have a normal life for like a day. And so they're all just trying to sort of take a load off. Rachel is trying to give something, drop something off for Tobias. I think she's trying to give him like supplies or something, as she like normally does. She ends up, cause she's at a gymnastics camp, if I recall.
Yeah, she's supposed to be going to gymnastics camp for the weekend. And
so she goes to morph and ends up basically hitting her head
on a tree,
and being knocked completely unconscious, sort of mid-morph.
Yeah.
And when she comes to, she has basically short-term memory loss. She can remember, like, she remembers how to like speak. She remembers like terms of the world and whatnot. She has no recollection of who she is, what she is, because she's halfway through a morph, and she has no idea where she is. So that is sort of the starting point for Rachel's plot.
Yeah, and that was the kind of thing that I was having issues with her amnesia. You see it all the time in older movies and TV shows, especially. Oh, I hit my head. I can't remember anything. And she is. She can't remember who she is. She can't remember anything that's happening around her. She has no idea why she's in the forest. So when I actually looked this up in my education corner that I'm going to pull up here for a minute, when people have amnesia, the part of the brain that's damaged is the part that is responsible for short-term memories. When the part of the brain that stores long-term memories, that is in a different part of your brain. So even if the short-term part is damaged, you're still going to remember who you are, where you came from, your family members, that kind of stuff. But you can't you're having problems creating new memories. Whereas if the short-term memory is fine, but the long-term memory is damaged, that means you can't remember who you are, but you remember what happened yesterday, or you remember yesterday's headline. So that part, I was just like...
She kind of has both.
Yeah, she kind of has both.
Conveniently,
for me, it kind of just felt like, oh, here's a plot line to make it interesting in the book, and it gives Rachel something to do other than go to gymnastics camp. Honestly, I think it kind of would have been a little bit fun if Rachel had just gone to camp and missed out on this entire thing. And then she comes back and she's like pissed. She's like...
I think it would be perfectly fine to actually just have the cutaways to Rachel just being like, dang, man, I wish I could see what they're up to. I hope everything's going well.
Yeah.
I know they weren't planning on doing anything. And then just like a recurring bit of it always cutting back to like worst possible moment.
Oh my
I think that's
God.
perfectly fine.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think that would have been so much more interesting. I don't think they needed this plot at all. And really all it is to separate Rachel from the rest of the group because the whole time she's just basically trying to figure out who she is, where she is, why she is, while everybody else is like, where the hell is Rachel?
And then that also,
so that's a thing.
that can also give the group the dynamic of if Rachel calls them and says, is everything okay? How's everything going? And they're like, yeah, everything's fine. Don't worry about us. Just hang out at camp, and that
have fun.
Makes that a little more dynamic and interesting. But anyway, enough of me harping on that.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, so it's like you were saying though. It's like it's just one of those things you have to buy into if you want to be able to enjoy the book at all. It might be tougher for some of us than others. It's just one of those things, right? But so, meanwhile, back at the party, Marco has basically bamboozled Axe into accompanying him on this reconnaissance mission.
Yeah.
They turn into mice. They end up overhearing that this girl who's the head of the party. Her name's something with a D, but I can't remember now. Is it like Deborah or something like that?
I can't remember.
It's not super important,
Darlene?
but Darlene sounds right to me. Yes. Okay. So
It could be it.
for all intents and purposes, we'll call her Darlene. But
Yeah, Darlene.
She's like basically talking shit about Marco. Like, yeah, that guy's a total like creep. Basically, like did this whole
gross.
stupid thing at my last party. Marco gets upset. Basically, jumps on her foot as a mouse. She freaks out. Then everybody's starting to try to stomp the mouse. Jake and Cassie recognize immediately, like, oh, it must be Marco and Axe. They're trying to like communicate with them out loud while Marco and Axe are like trying to thought speak with them. And Jake's like, you guys better basically get your asses out of here. They slip away. I believe it's like under the house.
To the basement of the house.
And once they're like trying to demorph, all of the sudden this basically like dust cloud rolls in. This big old thing.
Flat tornado, I think they called it.
And it starts carving away at the house and shaping into this sort of grotesque monster looking thing.
Yeah. It's like shredding the house apart.
Everybody completely panics, understandably so. No one has any idea what the hell is happening. And this is also where you kind of get into that whole thing that you were talking about, Casey, which was this is when you start to see the same event from different angles, but not giving any new information. So like the whole time, you're watching this event from Marco and Axe who are just kind of completely caught off guard by it. But you have the ability to like cut to Jake and Cassie and be like, oh, what do they see that's different? Yeah. And basically they see the exact same nonsense. And even Tobias, who is seeing this from a completely objective viewpoint, being, a bird at the time, he can't make heads or tails of this either. So it's just not really communicating any new information. But for all intents and purposes, this monster of sorts, after it's like, basically chopping away at this house completely, it ends up basically dissolving. Yeah. And just sort of abruptly kind of leaves. They're like, what the hell was that? They have no idea what to make of it. Everyone's trying to sort of figure it out. They realize, they need to try to like warn Rachel about what this new threat could be coming for her. So who knows? They're pretty sure she's at gymnastics camp, but there was some. Now I'm blanking on the reason. There was a reason why they thought she might not have been at gymnastics camp, and I can't remember now why.
Oh well, they did see her on the news.
That might have been it.
The next day. That's what it was. I think that's exactly what it was. So because Rachel's lost her memory, she wakes up. She's half eagle. She's half human. She's like, "What the hell am I?" I think I'm a human, and then she morphs back into human, so she's completely human out in the woods, and that's why the big tornado thing turned away from the house at the party, stopped eating the house. It was going, for reasons that I'm not going to spoil quite yet, it's heading for Rachel now. So then Rachel's just like, I don't know what this is, and she runs down the mountain onto a highway very dangerous. Really shouldn't do that.
Yeah, a 12-year-old with a
was, like, this big
concussion and
tornado
memory
chasing
loss.
In a leotard.
In a leotard, yeah.
Running
and
into
no
the highway.
shoes. Yeah, she's just absolutely...
No shoes. She runs through, the news airs that night, and either Jake or Marco tape the news, and they see one tiny frame of blurry blonde hair with barefoot and in a leotard running away from the highway, which this tornado thing destroyed an ice cream truck. It like crushed a lot of cars in its path, all that stuff. And they're like, wait, freeze frame, computer enhance, and it was Rachel in the highway. And they realize, oh, why isn't Rachel at camp? That's so weird. Why is she running away? It was after her. So now they want to go and find Rachel to make sure that she is okay and she's not in any actual danger.
Meanwhile, Rachel then, so they're hunting after her. I believe they were in Wolfmorph when they were trying to sort of track her down and find her. They kind of like, I think they even make a joke about it being like, we're playing a game of Bloodhounds or something like that.
Yeah.
While they're sort of looking for her,
she finds
Rachel ends up stumbling upon what can only be described as like this crazy old lady. And the woman is like kind of speaking nonsense. She's like kind of referring to her house as like a store. Rachel's like trying to find shoes, but like trying to purchase quote unquote shoes from her with like pine cones that she's finding on the ground. Everything seems to be going fine, even though this woman is clearly deranged, until the woman actually starts directly making references to Yerks. And so she says something to the effect of like, you're one of them, aren't you? She locks Rachel away in the basement while she's just screaming, Yerk, 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 Yerk. And it is implied that in this like little basement area that this woman has locked her away from, there is like a Yerk pool in this like little area, because she kind of like looks to something and is like, oh, there's like these slugging things like wandering around or whatever. She can't really make heads or tails of it because again, she conveniently has complete memory loss, as is convenient for the plot. So while she's panicking there, she
sets the house on fire. The crazy hoarder lady just sets everything on fire with Rachel trapped in the basement. And
as one
Rachel
does, of course.
Freaks out. Yeah, as one does. Anytime I see a bug in my house, I set the whole thing on fire. So Rachel is just like, oh my God, how am I going to get out of here? And she's like, maybe I can turn into an animal again. So she starts morphing into a grizzly. And she does have a line in this book, which I thought was pretty interesting. And she says, morphing should hurt, but it doesn't. After she's describing of like how her joints are all popping and she can hear her internal organs squishing as they change and morph into the grizzly's organs. And I was like, you know what? You bring up a good point. Morphing should hurt. And it doesn't. Because literally your entire body is being completely rearranged.
Thank goodness it doesn't, because that would be fucking horrifying.
It doesn't.
They literally would never do it, I think, if it did. So it's probably for the best.
So
but of course, while this whole thing is burning down, we get another visit.
Go ahead.
From the giant dust cloud monster, and they're like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Oh wait, no, he doesn't go whoosh. He goes brack, brack. That's how it's written in the book.
Classic, of course, yes.
Classic, as one does.
So it morphs into her little like grizzly bear form. She starts fighting with this creature. She's getting pieced the fuck up. Oh my God, she's like, losing limbs. It cuts to Axe's perspective for the first time.
He finds her.
He sees, and the way he describes it is crazy, because he just sees it, this thing is just getting torn, like just the grizzly bear is just absolutely like limb getting cut and cut and cut. And it's pretty horrifying to witness. And he tries to morph to sort of like find something that might be able to fight this creature. Immediately the creature turns to him
and lets Rachel go.
Yes, and takes him up to a ship, which is then revealed to be Visser 3's ship.
And this is where Axe figures out how the tornado works.
Right.
Where
so it's this thing called the Vilik.
Yeah.
The Vilik.
Vilik.
Which apparently means pet.
Yeah.
And it apparently also came from Saturn, which was just like a kind of throwaway thing that they mentioned. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
He's like that one planet with rings around it. Ah, yes, Saturn.
Yes. He is referring to Saturn, but I will not tell him that because I do not want to give up that I've been communicating with humans. So the way it works is pretty simple, if you haven't picked up on it at this point in the book. But basically what it is that anytime morphing happens, the thing is attracted to a new morph. So it's going to go after whatever that new morph is. Once it grabs him, it's supposed to bring him back so that Visser 3 can take care of him on his own time. He wants to keep Axe alive so that he can witness the death or capture of his other friends, to sort of break his spirits. Classic villain move that's obviously going to backfire. I always hate when villains do this. It's one of my least favorite tropes. Like, if you got him dead to rights, like, fucking kill him. I don't get it. But even Visser 3 is not recognizing the glaring hole in this plan.
That he can morph and get out.
I mean, just banana land. So Axe is trying to come up with an idea. This is jumping forward a few chapters, but he ends up coming up with the idea that he can morph into a flea, because there's actually a flea on his body. And he, takes that page out of Jake's book and turns into a flea. So that'll be how he's going to escape in a second. But cutting back to the rest of the group, they're trying to figure out how the fuck they're going to deal with this giant monster thing that just basically took one of their friends. And it actually takes them, I think, a minute to recognize that they might have taken a friend before they even are acknowledging that. But, sorry, go ahead.
It cuts to Cassie, who she's trying to figure out where Rachel is. And she's like, oh, if Rachel would be anywhere, it'd be the mall. So she goes to the mall. And she sees Chapman there. She's like, oh, Chapman probably has some ideas. Let me morph a fly, hang out around Chapman, and see if I can get any information. Which she gets some information. She confirms that, yes, this Vilik is attracted to morphing energy and has been trained by Visser 3 to pick up that morphing energy. And whatever is giving off that energy, he picks it up, takes it to the ship, drops it off, then he gets fed. Exactly like a dog, exact same information we got earlier. And then Cassie's like, cool, let me go tell everybody. And then what happens with Rachel gets out from her grizzly morph. She washes her stumps in the river as a bear, so not bleak. As a human, as a bear.
So bleak.
and she, it was actually really kind of messed me up a little bit when it talked about how she's a bear, but she's only walking on her hind legs because her two front legs are so messed up she can't put any weight on them, and there's like blood everywhere. Cool. So she morphs back into herself as a human, and she's like, oh great, I have fingers, excellent. And then she decides to go elephant mode, which I can't quite remember why, but she does that. Cool.
I think she was trying to just be something large,
something big,
to like combat against this thing. If and when it comes back, of course it does once she starts morphing into the elephant, but she hasn't quite recognized why it's doing that yet.
Exactly.
The other three.
Well, wait.
Spot.
The Vilik can't pick her up as an elephant. She's too heavy. It tries, and then it gives up and it goes away. It goes a different direction. Okay, then we go to the other three.
So the others have all seen now the Vilik like kind of maneuvering or whatever. So they're going to chase after it. They need something fast to chase after it. So they decide to take a car.
They take Cassie's dad's truck.
This for me is where the book really started to pick up, and I was like, "This is hilarious. This is awesome."
Fun for me.
So like they're having all this great banter about like, Marco, I thought you said you could drive. He was like, well, I didn't exactly say I could drive. I was just just that I
He's
think
I can I'm better at it than what I was.
Yeah, just that I think I'm getting there. He also, if I can recall correctly, didn't he like half morph into the gorilla at this point to try to like reach everything like a little more
I think you're right.
But so they're trying to figure out like how to catch the Vilik. Marco starts really morphing into the gorilla to try to get its attention, because at this point, of course, they have the information that Cassie's given them.
Yeah, they're all separating from the truck, so they're all morphing in different spots to make the Valik chase them around.
Of course, Axe is seeing all of this through like a bunch of different like cameras that Mr. 3 is like sort of set up so that he sort of torture him by like watching him watch his friends die, I guess, or get captured.
Cool.
And so once again, Rachel is affirming to Cassie now, because they kind of reconnect a little bit. She doesn't quite know who Cassie is, but now she's been called Rachel. She kind of is like, oh, I think that's my name. She's sort of starting to piece together a little bit of what's happening, and Cassie's trying to explain to her sort of in rapid time, but Cassie decides to turn into, I believe it was a squirrel, to sit on Rachel's back, because if she's morphed with Rachel, then
she can't get taken up either.
Exactly. So somehow, some way, the Valik grabs somebody. Axe is not exactly sure who. And this is the point when Axe transitions into a flea, because then when the cell door like opens up again, he's now going to try to escape. He's thought speech communicating with whichever one of his friends is in the area with him, and it turns out to be Marco, who was captured and is still in gorilla morph and is refusing to say anything to Visser 3.
Right.
Axe is able to...
You forgot. Marco crashes the truck into Rachel as an elephant.
Yes.
And almost kills them both.
You're right. That's my favorite part of it. Because it was fucking ridiculous.
That's how he gets up into the spaceship. He crashes the truck so bad it flips upside down several times and lands on the roof of the car. And Marco's just like, oh man, if I was a human, I'd be dead.
Absolute madman.
Oh my god, dude.
The most insane shit ever.
And he slams Rachel's head on the concrete because she's an elephant. She got hit by the truck. She falls down. Because she hit her head, now she's suddenly starting to remember everything. And I'm like, you would definitely be heavily concussed at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Probably bleeding from the ears.
She's absolutely, she's fried. There's nothing like what quality of life are we talking about with the scrambled egg that's
take her
in
off
the
life
middle of her
support
noggin right now?
Pull the plug.
She's done.
She's
absolutely done so.
So then Marco gets sucked up into the spaceship. Now he's in the spaceship with Axe.
So Axe is able to get onto him as a flea.
Yes.
And what I love so much about this whole escape is that it's mostly from Axe's perspective at this point, so you're not exactly sure what's happening until Marco is like revealing these things, because you're a flea. It's not like you have like amazing eyesight or whatever. And basically, what has happened is that Marco has jumped from the ship. He's completely jumped through Axe's instruction, because it is cutting back and forth between them. And Axe gives Marco the instruction to like open some sort of chamber or something, and Marco's like, I don't know what this is. Thinks that he's going to get just sucked out into space, but it opens up and they're actually still within the atmosphere technically. So Marco's just going to jump. So Marco jumps.
Yep.
And they are free falling through the sky. And this is like, I was like, this is peak Animorphs. This is fucking awesome. This is everything I wanted out of this series, and then some.
Absolutely.
This is everything I never knew I needed. And just like a free fall as a gorilla.
Yes. And I felt like such a dummy idiot McDum-dum, because I'm there like, oh my god, how is he not gonna die from this? And then literally at that point, Axe is like, Marco, you're not gonna die. Morph into a human and then morph into a bird. And Marco's like, oh yeah, I forgot I could do that. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot he could do that. And I was like, oh, okay, they're fine. It's a little bit scary because maybe he almost doesn't make it as a bird, but then he's fine. He morphs bird just in time.
Just barely.
Both of them do.
Just in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they fly away,
so they
not harmed.
Narrowly escape. So they reconvene everybody.
We forgot. We find out the Valik doesn't like water.
Right.
We find that out on the ship. There
was the activation of like the sprinkler system happens, which again as per Axe.
Yeah.
And you also figure out that the Valik is it's not just like one entity that turns into like a dust cloud. It's actually several little almost microscopic little entities.
Like
and actually
piranhas.
seeing them like up close and personal. Yeah, like little freaky
Like-
little,
Like a horde of tiny little piranhas.
little moving knives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that then just like clump together into what makes, I guess, the Valik. But the water actually like sort of stunts the individual. Like it's like basically like sticking them to the
Yeah,
ground.
they
I
don't
guess,
like that. Unlike
for lack of a
piranhas.
better term.
Piranhas like water.
But that, yeah, you're right. That is an important part because so when they all reconvene once again, Cassie comes up with a plan. I will say this is another one of my least favorite tropes ever. I hate when things do this. If you're gonna have characters come up with a plan, please tell the audience the plan.
Yes.
I hate being like, okay, well, what is it? Like, I don't want to play catch up. I want to be in the know.
Yes.
And tell me what you're planning to do, and then I can feel the stakes with them. The problem is that everybody's like, Cassie, that's crazy. You can't
my
risk all that.
God.
And I'm like, I can't relate to this because I have no idea what the fuck the plan is.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts.
And
I'm reading.
It would if they had shared the plan, it would open up that dialogue of, you can't do this. This is how I'm going to do this. And then you as a reader can be like, I don't know if I trust you either, but let's go, you know?
Like, just find a way to incorporate the audience into the plan, or the plan is not a plan, or the plan is just like, kind of like haphazardly thrown together in real time, whatever.
Yes, yes.
Like, I'm reading Six of Crows right now, and it's a good book. It's a very good book. But it does the same thing. And I'm like, why? It's a whole book that's designed around a heist. Let me know the elements of the heist. Otherwise, I can't really feel... I don't even know if you're failing at what you're doing or if you're succeeding if I'm not a part of the plan with you. So it's just very frustrating. But anyway, Cassie's got this plan. We're like, what's the plan? Everybody's like, that's crazy. They all end up agreeing to it because Cassie basically feels guilty that she let Marco morph, knowing full well that the Valik was going to go after him. And she wants to, sort of like step up, take some responsibility, not be a coward. And of course, no one's seeing her as a coward, but she wants for her own personal satisfaction, which I
She's
understand.
like, I guess it's up to me.
And she's also the best morpher, which is apparently
Yes.
a big part of this plan, as you'll
Yes.
come to find out. So the idea is she morphs into
Dolphin.
a dolphin first, swims out into the ocean, considerably far, right?
Yeah. Finds
The
a
others stay on shore and continue doing like a little morph to distract the Valik while she has some time, right?
Rachel and Marco both turn into dolphins also because they have to bring her back up to the surface as a human.
Right. I
That
forgot
one.
about that element. You're right. So I think it's then, is it Jake that then stays on shore or something?
Yeah,
Or
I think so.
they end up going back as well, and then they all start doing it. But regardless, so yeah, she finds a whale morph. She comes back up as a human, then turns into a cockroach so that Tobias can pick her up. And then once he gets high enough into the sky, she's going to morph again. She morphs into a human first, so the Valik then comes after her. Then, once the Valik has grabbed her, she morphs into a whale.
It's whale time.
And, of course, she's too heavy for the Valik to grab. The thing crashes into the water and is almost immediately sort of, like, decimated by the whole thing.
Yeah. This part of the book also made me think of you because when Tobias is taking Cassie up into the sky as a cockroach, Rachel is, like, with Jake, and she's like, do you think she'll be able to do it, Jake? And Jake is like, she has to. She's the only one. She has to do it herself. And then Rachel's like, wow, what a great leader Jake is. He's so stoic and he knows exactly what to do all the time. He makes the best decisions. I'm like, you didn't even make this decision. It was Cassie.
I mean, just punch me in the face at this point. It's just insane. You also get, I think, like 2 or 3 times that Rachel's called Xena Warrior Princess in this book as well.
Yes.
And that one is finally starting to get to me also.
Yes.
It just... Oh my god. At least with that one, Rachel's like, Rachel doesn't like it.
Yeah, she's
so
like, whatever.
At least there's a character kind of dynamic to it. The one with Jake being like a fucking great leader is like just insufferable.
Jake is like, I didn't ask for this. It was placed upon me, and I shall see it through. Being a Lady McLeaderson, it's up to me.
Of all leaders.
Leader
Prince
of all
Jake.
leaders. Yes. I must.
can't stand it. But so, none of I would say I would go as far as to say like none of the Animorphs books really have like a major resolution, but this one least of all because pretty much it ends like right here.
Right there.
They kill this thing, they're like woohoo, and then that's it.
That's
There's
it.
literally nothing else.
Yeah.
So that is Megamorphs 1.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I was surprised by how abrupt the ending was, just because there was...
I was getting to the end, I was like, what the hell are they going to do to wrap this up?
And they don't. They just put it in the water, and then Cassie's like, I believe the whales are telling us to stay hopeful. And I'm going to sing the song
she
of
starts
hope.
to sing the song. Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right, she did do
They're
that.
like, what are you singing, Cassie? And she's like, whales don't have words, but I believe we would call it hope.
Yeah.
And
if you're listening to the audio version,
Yeah.
there's like this little ditty of music that they play like right at the end, and it's very 90s pilled. It's sick.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask, is it like polka music? Like, what is it?
I don't even know how to describe it. It just sounds like sort of like haphazard science fiction-esque sounds.
Cool.
It's like wow 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 wow.
Wow,
It's great.
wow.
So that is Megamorphs 1. There you go.
Excellent. We did it. We finished the Megamorphs books. So yeah, I think we've kind of discussed things that like we would want to change, or like ways we would want to adjust. I think it's so interesting how the beginning of the book is kind of slow and kind of plodding and like, okay, when are things going to happen? And then the ending of the book is just so abrupt and done, and that's it. I almost feel like maybe this book was ghost written, but I don't know for sure. I don't want to point any fingers.
It's possible. I mean, there are elements of the book that I'm like, oh yeah, no, this still feels like very in line with
what we've read,
the character dynamics and whatnot. There are even elements of this book that I think, in terms of like this sort of cinematic set pieces of it, I think are actually better than anything that we've read. But then, yeah, there are elements where it's like, okay, did we just throw together? Did like the editor just toss in this chapter just to break up the structure? Make it a little more fluid.
This person hasn't done anything for a while. Let's put them in.
Yeah. I could see that being the case. I would go as far as to say it's probably not like at least 100% or even 70% ghost written.
Yeah.
Or even 50% ghost written. But I could see maybe some elements being tossed in
Sure.
here. I think the only major change that I think it sounds like both of us would make is just I don't think it's necessary to have Rachel go through the whole
the
memory
amnesia
loss.
subplot.
I think that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
I think you could still. In fact, I would almost structure it more as like a Rachel story specifically. I don't even know if you need the pool party stuff. I would just start it literally with Rachel at gymnastics camp for whatever reason she innocently uses a morph for something, and then have the Valik come right after her. You have like almost a little horror-esque element of that thing like just hounding after her until her friends come and try to sort of rescue her, and then have the rest of the plot sort of function as is. I actually think that's probably a better way to structure the story.
Yeah, she could easily like call them, and then that sets them on the path of like, oh, this weekend we were going to hang out, but now we can't because something's happening with Rachel. You stay there at camp, we'll figure it out. And you know, you could still take some of the episode from the perspective of Rachel seeing what's going on, like maybe on TV, and just being like, what is happening? I have to know. And she can't get in contact with them now because they're out crushing this Valik. You know, I think that would really make the story a lot stronger in terms of just like pacing, and it feels more directed for the other characters in the book of, we're going to focus on this direction. Rachel's going to focus on this thing. It feels more in line, I guess, with what we know about the characters already. So yeah, that I would definitely change that, and I would give it like a little bit more of a button at the end. I like that she's a whale, and she's singing her little whale song.
I actually think the best way you get a button is you literally just have them like hanging out at Cassie's house and have her dad make some sort of mention about like how messed up it is that the tornado took his car. Like,
oh my God.
even just the
my
acknowledgement
God.
that happened would go a long way. You know what I mean? Just as long as we're saying something.
Idea. That is such a great idea. Perfect.
Button it that way, you know?
That is, Gianni, you're hired.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what they pay me the big bucks for, honestly.
Yeah. And then he's freaked out about his car, and then they don't have the truck anymore. Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the only like major changes I would make. It would really just be to the Rachel side plot, making it more of a function to the story, instead of just like a contrivance, and then and then basically carrying out the rest of the set pieces as is, and then just having a more finite resolution on it. But yeah, that's how I sort of feel about it.
Cool. Agreed. Now next in the series, we've got.
I'm going to the cover.
The Alien.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to be happy.
Oh, is it my boy? My boy gets his own book finally?
Now,
wow, look at this.
So on the front cover, we've got Axe. What's the tagline there underneath the title, Gianni? What's that say?
He's only human when he wants to be.
Oh, because he's an Andalite. So we got Axe on the cover. He's morphing into a boy. Would you say this boy looks like all of our cast of characters since he took all their DNA? I'd say kind of. You know what?
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's really not bad at all.
I see a little bit of it. Yeah.
Did you?
I hate the outfit, but this cover actually doesn't bother me at all.
The
weirdly.
T-shirt looks way too big for his body, but I also feel like
it's the belt that's really doing it.
Oh yeah, the belt. That belt is really low on the pants.
Yeah. I don't know why it's like that.
But it's also he's an Andalite. He doesn't know how to dress. What is dressing? He doesn't wear clothes.
That's true. Yeah, give him the pass. But yeah, this might be the first cover that I actually don't like. It doesn't give me like an allergic reaction, to be honest with you. I think because he's an alien, it can kind of look unnatural in a way that feels a little more.
He's also jacked.
Yeah, he's shredded.
He's ripped.
Yeah.
So not too bad on the eyes, Axe. So this one, I do remember. If I'm remembering correctly, and this one's another really interesting one.
Okay.
So I don't want to give away too much. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think there will be an alien in this?
Well, I mean, I assume that the alien is literally just referring to Axe, like just being in Axe's
it could
mind.
be.
So I guess, you kind of get a... This is another one of those titles where it's like, well, we had this in our back pockets. As long as we're focusing on an alien. We could get away with it. So I guess this might be one of the few. I would hope that this is... I mean, like... What I really hope to see, what I would really like to see, is just more of Axe's like day to day. Because there's plenty of times where, because Axe is an Andalite and can't just be seen regular out in the open, there's plenty of times where Axe is just basically by himself. So I would like to just spend that time like having him sort of go through the motions of his day to day. I'm hoping to get some good character interactions with Tobias, because they both are, kind of ostracized for their. Because of the fact of, Tobias is a hawk, and of course because of the facts that he's an Andalite. So I think it would be a good opportunity to have those two characters really interact quite a bit, as they're just kind of loaning it out. But beyond that, I mean, I don't know what the plot is going to be moving forward. I mean, I don't know. You have something as powerful as the Valik introduced in the last thing, but I imagine with how easily it was, dispersed, they're probably not going to just jump right back in on that. So I'm not expecting to see that pop up again. I would hope that we address the old lady, because obviously she knew something.
She's gone.
She knew something.
She just disappeared. She set the house on fire and she left.
But maybe this is not the book to do it. I don't know. But I would hope that comes back in some way.
I mean, what if this book was from her perspective and she's the alien?
Then I'm down. That sounds sick as fuck, actually. Just have her in this little like buddy cop comedy thing. But yeah, no, I don't think I have any expectations beyond that.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I guess we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you to everybody for listening. If you'd like to reach out to us, if you disagree with us, if you agree with us, if you just want to say, hey, what's up, and that you're totally not a controller, Jimothy. I'm looking at you. You can reach out to us at morphinbuddies@gmail.com. Not going to spell it out this time. I think I've done that enough.
Boo!
Oh, okay.
Boo.
morphinbuddies@gmail.com. I think that was the fastest I've ever done that. Okay.
That was really quick. Yeah.
That was really fast, and I'm out of breath.
I always get a kick out of thinking of people listening to these podcasts on like 2x speed. There was one time it was my ex-girlfriend, and her dad talked to me about my podcast, and he was like, "Yeah, you talk really fast on that." And I was like, I never really realized it. And then we came to find out weeks later that he had just somehow accidentally been listening to it at 2x speed.
Oh my God.
He was like, yeah, those episodes are like 20 minutes. I was like, 20 minutes? I was
How
like,
are they 20
sure?
minutes when they're an hour?
So that was funny.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, so if you're listening to us 2x speed, it's probably over by now. So congratulations, you made it.
There you go.
Hopefully we're not
It was
speaking
way
too
quicker.
fast. I hope you spelled that email address quickly enough as I spelled it out. Challenge accepted. Anyway, before I cringe myself into oblivion, I'm gonna leave everyone now. So, do you have any last words, Gianni? Any hopes and dreams to pass on to the folks?
Nope, just send us a little email ranking the characters, please.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
you don't have Jake last, then
You're wrong.
we will address it. We will address it strongly on the podcast. But that is always fun. So yeah, if you ever want to send us an email, that's a great way in. You just rank the characters for me, please.
Yes, absolutely. Please rank the characters, rank the books. Let us know your thoughts and opinions. It's really fun seeing that there are some fruits to our little labor here, and it's cool as hell. So thank you, everyone. Okay, we're going to leave you now. This is turning out like the last Lord of the Rings movie where it has 17 different endings.
Every one of those endings rocks.
Yeah, they do. It's my favorite movie. And if you say Fellowship of the Ring is better, you are also wrong. So, okay. Goodbye, everyone. And we'll see you on the next episode of Morphin Buddies.